Good evening. We are at the City Hall Council Chambers, 10 West State Street, Marshalltown, Iowa, and the date is December 27, 2021, 5:30 p.m. This is our last regularly scheduled City Council meeting for the year. I am to read this notice to the public as we call you to order, and that is that the mayor and council welcome comments from the public during discussion of any of the agenda items. To make those comments, you have to step to the mic, state your name and address for the record, and limit your time to be used to present your remarks for 3 minutes or less so that others may be given a similar opportunity. All speakers shall speak clearly. Direct your comments to the mayor and council in general and not to any councilor specifically. It's at the discretion of the mayor and council to respond to specific questions and comments or to have staff respond during the meeting. Would those able and willing please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Let's see if I can get the right order tonight, including the roll call before we jump into other things.
Gowdy, Hoop,
Here.
Isom, Lottie-Hoff,
Here.
Martin,
Here.
Thompson, Weirin. Here.
Very good. And that means we do have a quorum tonight. I hate to be missing Councilor Gowdy because after the meeting tonight we have a celebration to feat the fact that we've had three long-serving people on the council that will not continue service after this meeting. Let's stay. Time for the mayor, council, and administrator comments. Does anybody on the council have any comments first?
No, sir.
City administrator, any from you?
Just the reminder to please join us at the Coliseum in the first floor conference rooms, first 4 rooms after this for a celebration of service.
Okay, and then let me reserve my comments until after we do years of service recognition. Do we have one of those with the chief here, I believe?
No, not tonight.
Nope, not tonight. Okay. Well, let me then reflect for the record that Rodney Burgess has reached the 5-year mark, and Chris Cross has reached the 5-year mark as well. And then I'd also like to tell people that we're presenting this certificate to Ken Hughey. I don't think he was notified in advance of it, but let me read this. It says, "We appreciate your public service to the city of Marshalltown and to the citizens of our community by covering the city council meetings with KFJB for so many years. Your dedication has been greatly appreciated." For those of you that ever want to run for mayor, you'll find out that one of the things that happens if you do that is that you're called to do interviews on kind of a regular basis. I have always looked forward to and enjoyed the interviews at KFJB. Ken's done an excellent job of putting questions together and handling hot topic issues with kid gloves, and I will really miss him around there, as I've told him privately. So Ken, we have a certificate for you here. Let me meet you about halfway. Wore the mask in. I do see others wearing masks out there too. We had the opportunity to go to New York City and then out to San Francisco and Big Sur in the last week and a half. In New York City, it was locked down to the point where you had to show a vaccination card if you wanted to eat at a restaurant. Every single indoor place in California required a mask, and it's weird to come back to Iowa on planes that require that you have masks. To see that we're not doing that back here, that makes me a little bit nervous. I just have to tell you. So I'm not proposing a mask mandate again tonight, given what the governor has pronounced and the attorney general has said, but many people have good reasons to be wearing them, so please appreciate the people that do that. And I'll wear mine on the way out as well. I know it's hard to hear me, though, if I'm wearing a mask during the meeting tonight. Enough of that. Let's go on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve it?
I move for approval.
Second.
Let's call the roll.
Martin,
Here.
Weirin,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Lottie Hoff,
Yes.
Very good. That is approved, and you don't have to speed read them tonight. We don't have that much on the agenda.
Approved minutes for the December 13th, 2021 meeting and a bill list for $1,362,858.36. Approve October 2021 financial statements. Receipt of building permit report for November 2021. Resolution authorizing the City of Marshalltown to enter into a memorandum of understanding and agreeing to the terms of the Iowa Opioid Allocation Memorandum of Understanding. Resolution adopting the Marshall County Hazard Mitigation Plan. Resolution approving contract change order number 3 for the final clarifier rehabilitation project number WPC 20001, a decrease of $90,941.04. Resolution authorizing the transit administrator as the signatory on the Iowa Department of Transportation contracts. Resolution approving an agreement between the City of Marshalltown and the UAW Amalgamated Local Number 893. Resolution approving the amended facilities master agreement with Youth and Shelter Services of Marshall County. Resolution approving a sub-recipient agreement with the Fisher Governor Foundation for the Iowa Great Places Grant. And resolution approving salary adjustment for the City Administrator Jessica Kinzer.
Very good. Thank you. On to the next item, which is item G, reports. The first and only one of those is the Impact Quarterly Update Report.
Good evening, Mike Tupper, Marshalltown Police Department. So we are at the end of our 12-month pilot project with YSS of Marshall County. So it went by really fast, and tonight we have folks here to provide a quarterly update about what we've experienced over the last 12 months. So I'm going to have Ryan Keller from YSS of Marshall County come up first, and he has some remarks. So thank you, Ryan.
Good evening. Again, my name is Ryan Keller. I'm a senior therapist at YSS here in Marshalltown. And it's really a privilege to be able to speak to you tonight about some of the information that we've been able to gather over the past year concerning the IMPACT program. So the current statistics that we have, or this current information that we have for IMPACT is from February of this year to November of this year. So we will have more information once December is over and able to report all of that. But in terms of the cumulative total of calls that we've made in that time period, our community advocates have gone out on 327 total calls, which yielded 475 contacts. Contacts are the individuals that they interact with while they're out on those calls. Of those calls, of those contacts that we've had, what we found is that 35 to 40% of them end up being mental health issues. So to share some information about how that actually works, I think is important. And although I can't share the actual names of clients or individuals, what I can do is tell you their stories. For the sake of the one story, let's call the gal Emma. But Emma was an individual that would call the police on a somewhat frequent basis with information concerning somebody's breaking into my home. There's all kinds of bad people out trying to get me. And the reality is most of this was due to her mental health status. The only person, if you want to say it, in the world that she trusted was her dog. When our community advocate, Darcy, was able to go out and interact with her and start to spend regular time with her to help her see her need, to get her connected to mental health services, which she chose to come to YSS for those services. We heard a comment about a month in that although it was very difficult for Emma, she was starting to trust humanity again. She was, again, starting to trust the police again, because with these interactions, the police never found anything. She felt like they weren't believing her, and it caused a real bad relationship, at least from her point of view, with the police. In all of that, she has made great bounds over the last several months with her mental health and can really identify the problems that she's had. She's been able to get connected with appropriate medication management, and through all of that is much more stable and is much more able to interact with the general public because of the help that she's received. If the calls had continued, it may have gotten to a point where the police had to act in a different way. But because of the opportunity that Impact has been able to have with individuals, she got the help she's needing. She's not having negative interactions with the police, again, from her point of view, not from the police's point of view. And she's able to focus on her physical health, her home life, all of those things, and is just tremendous progress made with that. So it's just encouraging for me as a therapist to be able to walk with a client and see that, but I feel it's important for everybody here to understand as well. Your insight in terms of helping us with this program and the partnership we have really is making some deep positive impacts, if we can use that word more than once, with individuals out there, and mental health is such a huge issue. The other issue that we see with that is homelessness. We know that we have concerns, right? The weather's getting colder. Our calls to go out and help people who are homeless are increasing through Impact. But the barrier, of course, that we have with this is that there's no shelter in Marshalltown that we can help them go to. And yet, I think we, through this partnership, have seen some great strides there as well, because the Impact advocates are able to come alongside those individuals that have been sleeping on a bench in front of a bar, or sleeping in a tent out at the park, or things along those lines. And they both have gotten trained in what we call a via SPDAT assessment, which is the assessment that has to be done through the state to get individuals on the list to get help with housing. And quite a few of the individuals that they've worked with now are in apartments. They're not sleeping on the street. They're getting the help they need as well. As you can imagine, a lot of these things are crossovers. We may have somebody who's homeless who also has a mental health need. We may have somebody with a mental health need who also has food insecurity or different things that they need for their family. But it is just an encouragement to walk with these individuals and see the progress they're making. And then for the ones that we are able to interact with on a regular basis, we see them wanting to give back and give back to this community as well. So that is such an important thing that we're just encouraged by everything going on. We even have those individuals now that are wanting to step up and be able to talk and say, this is what Impact has done for us. This is what the police are doing, and that I see that the police care about me. So it's just an encouragement. I'd like to introduce Officer Akula to come up and speak and give some of his insights as well.
All right, I'm here to kind of give you a testimonial as far as what we see working on shift, interacting with Impact. And Ryan's story about Emma really hits on what we as a police department don't have the ability to do, and that's the follow-through. A lot of times we look at it as we're kind of a Band-Aid when it comes to some of these mental health issues. We're going to get you through the night. We're going to get you some resources right away, but we don't have the ability to follow up with you the next day. We kind of move on to the next call, and Impact has the ability to truly actually affect these people's lives for the better, and that's something that we haven't had the chance to do. So that's a perfect example of what this program does. A couple of the other things, keep in mind, I only work a quarter of the year, so or a quarter of the hours in the year, so there's 3 other shifts that are constantly interacting with this program as well, so they see about the same amount. And I'd say it saved our officers a lot of time, but more importantly, it's gotten those resources to the public immediately. And one of those things is the very last shift that I worked last week, we had a family disturbance between a teenager and mom and some adult sisters, and we got called to a physical disturbance at that point. We get there, we calm the scene down, and then we realize this is something that they need some family counseling issues to work through. So we contacted Impact to come. They showed up, and they're able to take over that call and then work with the follow-through and get immediate therapy sessions, counseling sessions set up that night for the following day and so forth. So that way they're getting those. Whereas if it was just us, if we did not have the impact program, we would be dealing with it that night. We'd be making a report to DHS. Then DHS would come in, probably be today because it was right before the holiday. So now they've waited almost a week, and then DHS does their own investigation, which could take forever. And then they recommend those resources, and then it's on DHS to schedule them. So now we're behind by probably 2 weeks, even to the point where we're scheduling a session, whereas the family immediately got the assistance they needed. So that's one instance where the impact is really improving people's lives immediately. Some of the other things, we deal with a lot of the mental health calls, and again, that's one of those where for us, our resource is taking them up to the hospital and basically giving them over to the ER staff, and then they can get an evaluation done. That's a lot of times not ideal, but that's what we have. Whereas this, they can come in, they can talk to those individuals, and they can make an assessment and set up, future counseling with those individuals immediately, and that's going to help them here. Whereas if I take them to the ER and they need something above and beyond, they're going to be shipped off somewhere else. So it doesn't help them in the community where they're needed. The other issue with that is that it also ties up an officer. If we're on a mental health call and it requires an ER visit, you're talking a minimum of about a 45-minute to 2-hour time frame that is going to hold an officer up. Whereas when we show up, we make sure the scene's safe, and then we bring impact in, you're talking about maybe a 15-minute encounter for us and giving that individual the resources they need immediately. So it's a win-win on both sides, because now I can go on and take care of whatever calls are waiting versus having to push off that stuff for an hour or two. So that's just a couple of the things that it impacts us, and that's ever since February. That's how it's been, and it's been really great working with Autumn and Darcy. They've been really good about working with us and working with the public. So I think this is a very successful program, and I look forward to where it's going to go in the future. So, all right.
So just to wrap this up, I'd like to say thank you to the YSS team for their work this year, the Marshalltown Police Department team for their commitment to this program and dedication, and most of all to Jessica and you all for making this happen, because we came to you with an idea a little over a year ago, and you bought in and made it happen. So thank you for everything that you've done to support this program. It's working well. You know me well enough to know that I have high expectations and high standards, and this program is exceeding all expectations that I had for the first 12 months. So I think it has a bright future. So we're willing to answer any questions you might have, and again, we appreciate the community support and everything that you all have done to make this happen. Thank you.
Any questions or comments for the chief?
Question here.
Yes, sir.
Chief, and anybody else who wants to answer, the state or the status of homelessness in Marshalltown. I'd like an update of what you're seeing, what you're working with, and what resources might be out there.
Okay. David, do you want to handle that? Putting David on the spot. So I'll tell you from the cops' perspective, I think a lot of people, when they hear the term homelessness, they're thinking people sleeping under bridges. And while that might be occurring, what we see most often is people, they just don't have a place to go, and so they're couch surfing, going place to place to place, and that can be very disruptive for families and especially for children. So it's a difficult thing for people to have to deal with. But I'll let David talk to you about what he sees.
David Hicks, Director of YSS of Marshall County. As far as the homelessness goes, without the immediate ability to house people, we have to do a lot of stopgap measures. So we have a transitional living program. We're down to 4 apartments that can house people from 18 to 24. But the Bridge Home out of Ames has been kind of the lifeline that's been sent to us. So we can work with the Bridge Home in terms of assessing people to be housed. And Ryan talked about the VI SPDAT, which is the Vulnerability Index Service Prioritization Assessment Tool, which is basically the way to get into a state or federally funded homeless shelter. You have to have an assessment done. So it's the most in need get the help first, as opposed to first come, first serve. So the most in need get the prioritization. But what we have is kind of a capacity issue. The Bridge Home does have funding to have some hotel rooms available. They're largely full. And without the Bridge Home providing those hotel rooms, that's even less capacity. So we have to work with connecting them with other family members, whatever resource they can find. Maybe it's transportation to Des Moines, where they have family or friends. In January, we will conduct the annual point in time count. So I'm the chair of the local homeless coordinating board. One of the tasks we are charged with is a count of the homeless people in the Marshall-Hardin County area. So we're going to be doing that, I think it's the last Wednesday in January, so look for more information to come on that. So we're going to be looking at those who are homeless, and that's people living in areas not meant for habitation, literally homeless, but we have people doubled up, tripled up, living in temporary areas, sleeping on floors that, while we consider that homeless, the federal government doesn't necessarily. So a lot of work ahead of us. I think the Bridge Home is key to our partnership. But again, they only have limited capacity too. So as much as Impact has done over this past year, it's uncovered needs just as well. Sure.
Any other questions? Very good. Thank you for that excellent report. What Mr. Martin down here and I know, because we were both able to attend an event at Van Gogh Tannen about 6 weeks ago, and then more recently at the library, is that we've heard testimony from all of the counselors, other police officers, and at the library we heard from one of the juveniles who was one of the first ones helped in this program. It was a compelling story. A lot of us had to get our handkerchiefs out to hear what impact that really had on that person, and to know how well this program is going. And just for the public that's listening or watching online out there, the next thing needed in this impact program is to be able to extend the hours. Right now we only have 2 mental health counselors that are able to cover the shifts, and they end at about midnight. And there's a lot that happens where there's need for family interaction and mental health issues after midnight. So the idea is to try to ramp this program up a little bit. It has become a template for the whole state, and I know that the officers here, the police and YSS folks, are getting calls from out of state asking, what did you do and how did you do it, because it's working so well here, and we'd love to have that extended by the hours. It's also the most fascinating thing I've seen here in 10 years. I've never seen a motion come out of the blue like it did, to find out, the ask was for what, 15,000 or 25,000 just to get it off the ground. And the question was, what would it take for the year? The answer was, I've forgotten what the amount was, $150,000. And it was a unanimous vote. I had never seen anything like that before or since. And what's fun is you've worked it and come back with that. And then a final note, about an hour ago, as I was getting ready for the meeting and got bored and just hopped onto Facebook, I noticed that Chief Tupper was given one of the highest awards given by YSS in the state of Iowa for his work on this sort of thing. And so that's the kind of thing that this idea spawned, and the kind of thing that we have going in Marshalltown that we need to be proud of. So I'll quit pontificating, but thank you for the good report. Okay, let's get on to the business, and that's resolutions. Would you read us the first one, Abel?
Resolution approving an amendment contract with Youth and Shelter Services of Marshall County for the continuation of the Impact Program.
Move for approval.
Second, Your Honor.
Very good. Discussion.
Well, I'm back. So, the pilot project is over, and we want to keep this great project moving forward. So there's a memo in your packet, and I'll be happy to answer any questions about that.
Any questions about that? Roll call. Oh, I guess I'm supposed to call for public comment too. Let me do that. Not seeing anybody jump up to the microphone. Let's call the roll.
Weirin?
Yes.
Hoop?
Yes.
Lottie
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Very good. That carried as well. On to the next resolution.
Resolution approving a 28E agreement with Marshall County for combined law enforcement operations.
I'm gonna have to get the timer out, you know. I heard a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Your Honor.
Thank you. Discussion.
Okay, so hopefully this is the last time you have to see me tonight, but the Marshalltown Police Department, as you know, has a tactical team, and we also have a crisis negotiations team. So those are Marshalltown police officers that are specially trained to handle high-risk emergency events. And for several years now, because this goes back to when Sheriff Ted Camachis was still the sheriff, Sheriff Camachis and I entered into a gentleman's agreement to allow some of his deputies to join our tactical team and the crisis negotiations team to enhance operations for both agencies and enhance public safety in Marshalltown and Marshall County. And we've continued this relationship for a few years now, and I approached Sheriff Camachis at one point about a 28E agreement. He wasn't interested. And then I approached Sheriff Hoffman about a 28E agreement. He wasn't really interested, but they wanted to continue the partnership. This past year, during a insurance audit with ICAP, they said, hey, it's a great idea, but you need to have a 28E agreement. So we've drafted a 28E agreement. The agreement that's in your packet has been sent to Sheriff Phillips. We've had some discussions about it, and he did offer some edits to the first edition of the agreement. We accepted those edits. We've worked with our with legal staff, with Lynch Dallas, to make sure that this agreement meets everybody's needs and all the legalities that are involved. And staff would recommend that the City Council approve this agreement, and then we'll send it on to Marshall County to solicit their approval as well. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any council questions or comments? Public. Roll call.
Weirin?
Yes.
Hoop?
Yes.
Lottie
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Very good. That carried as well. On to the third resolution.
Resolution accepting bid and authorizing the award of contract for the Creekside Estates bid project number ECO 21004 in the city of Marshalltown, Iowa, in the amount of $684,161.75.
Let me call for a motion to approve that first.
So move, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Second.
Very good. Discussion.
Good evening, Heather Thomas, Public Works. In front of you is recommending award of the bid to Construct. This is for the Creekside Estates Edition. It's the street off 6th Street, just north of the bowling alleys. We received 5 bids for the base bid, which was the asphalt bid, and 6 bids for concrete. The low bid was Construct with concrete construction. So we are recommending $684,161.75 awarded to Construct. I do have one correction from some of the extra documents that are in there. The split between public and private, there was some additional negotiation there, so we went back to the development agreement from March, and that split will be $464,652 public and $219 and change for private. That's still below the estimated of $508 back from the March timeframe. So with that, we would recommend award. Substantial completion is October.
Any comments or questions for Heather about this resolution?
Question here.
Mr. Martin.
How was the split determined?
Yeah, so the split's determined based upon the development agreement that was discussed back in March. The items there, specifically, you know, the trail, the grading, not trail, sidewalk, road, public infrastructure, sanitary sewer, and those types of items. There were specific items there that there was some additional negotiation, and we went back to the original agreement just to make sure we had that right, and agreed with the change that they asked for this last week.
I still have concerns about the public-private shared program. I'm not entirely sold on it, but I know it's going to pass.
Yeah. And like I said, and that's why we went back to the March agreement and made sure that the split was accurate of the discussions that were had back in March.
Other questions or comments by the council? Otherwise, we'll call for public comment. Roll call.
Hoop,
Yes.
Lottie Hoff,
Yes.
Martin,
No,
Weirin,
Yes.
Very good. That carried as well. On to the. Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. We do need 4 on that one, don't we? Okay. Our penalty for having a meeting right after Christmas. Okay. That did fail. On to number 4 then.
public hearing on proposed development agreement with Marshalltown Company.
I move for approval. Let me first declare the public hearing's open at 6:02 p.m. Did the clerk receive any written comments?
No, Your Honor.
Time for public comments. Nobody's rushing to the mic. Staff review.
Yes, so this is only the public hearing. There is not a resolution to approve the agreement, as we did have some changes come from Marshalltown Company for some of the language, so we decided to delay that until January 10th because we didn't have enough time to make things work over the holidays here and getting this agenda out. So as a reminder, this is the proposed development agreement for $2.9 million to cover the installation of stormwater infrastructure along State Street, or not State Street, 8th Avenue, South 8th Avenue, as well as East Lynn Street, and then to provide a dollar amount equivalent to what would be basically the tax abatement on a phase 2, phase 3 of the property, which the developer is giving up in order to do this agreement.
Thank you. Time for council comments. Hearing none, I declare the public hearing is closed then at 6:03 p.m. and would solicit a motion to approve the resolution.
I move for approval.
There is no resolution.
Oh, there isn't, is there? That's a
Sorry.
proposed hearing, or hearing on just on the proposed agreement. Okay. So much for the resolutions in the public hearing. Let's go on to item I, ordinances. The first one is what?
Ordinance 15032 to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Marshalltown, Iowa by repealing Chapter 120 tree trimmers, third reading.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Your Honor, this ordinance repeals the tree trimmer license requirements to eliminate city involvement in civil disputes against tree contractors.
We invite comment by either council or public, since it's our third reading. And call the roll.
Hoop,
Yes.
Lottie Hoff,
Yes.
Martin,
yes,
Weirin,
Yes.
Very good. That one did carry. On to the second of 3 ordinances.
Ordinance 15033 to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Marshalltown, Iowa, Chapter 58, Vegetation, third reading.
I move for approval.
Second.
Discussion by council or public. Roll call.
Martin,
yes,
Weirin,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Lottie Hoff,
Yes.
That carried as well. And our third and final ordinance.
Ordinance 15035, repealing ordinance number 14951, providing for the division of taxes levied on taxable property in Marshalltown Urban Renewal Area Number 5, third reading.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion by council or public. Roll call on this one.
Hoop,
Yes.
Lottie Hoff,
Yes.
Martin,
yes,
Weirin,
Yes.
That carried as well. On to item J, which is public comment, and requires me to read this one as well. Members of the public may make comments on any item that was not on the agenda during this time. Approach the mic, state your name and address, limit your comments to 3 minutes unless I authorize more. Speak directly to the mayor and council as a whole. The mayor and council shall not engage in discussion or debate on items raised by members of the public, and no action may be taken on them in order to comply with the open meetings laws. The microphone is open, and while it's open, I just want to point out, as people walked in, they had the opportunity to pick up this, This is Iowa Explore Nature magazine. And so while I was up here, I thumbed through, and on page 2 is a full page ad about Marshalltown with our new Marshalltown More Than Ever logo, and several pictures that make us stand out in the magazine. So if you didn't pick one up on the way in, pick one up on the way out, and then notice what good work has been done in that committee that's included the city staff and Vision Marshalltown to try to get the good word out about what a good thing we have going here in town. Not seeing anybody rushing to the microphone to make any public comment, I'll declare that this meeting is adjourned at 6:07 p.m. and remind people to join us in the nice building next door here to feed some of our counselors.